take a step back and really ask yourself, what is it I'm good at? What comes effortlessly and gives you joy? Also, sometimes others really know us better than we tend to know ourselves. So don't be afraid to reach out to those friends, family, close confidants to see what they see your strengths are and what they see you do that inspires you and maybe even inspires them as well. And they reach to you for that inspiration.
Welcome to the Midlife Reinvention Podcast. I'm your host, Kavita, and the founder of Power Purpose Play, a global community of women in midlife. I'm here to tell you that it's your time now to rediscover what has always been inside of you and bring that out into the world. If you're wondering what's next, but don't know quite what that is, or if you feel a twinge in your heart telling you that you have so much more to do and so much more to offer, you're in the right place. Ask yourself, if not now, when? Do you want to leave your job, start your own business, take control of your health, reignite the passion in your marriage, write that book, or at least that first chapter? Transitions like this can be daunting, but through listening to my story and interviews with incredible women every week, I hope to inspire you to take action. I rediscovered myself after the age of 50, and I know you can too. It's my time now to help you do just that. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive in. Welcome, my friends, to another episode of the Midlife Reinvention Podcast, a career and life transitions podcast. If you're wondering what's next in your career or life and don't know where to begin, you have come to the right place, my friend. For those of you who may not know me or be new to the podcast, welcome, and it is a joy to have you here. The reason I started this podcast is to inspire women like you who may be at a transition point in your life. It could be in your career. Perhaps you've been at a career for a long time now and you are no longer motivated by it and are kind of asking yourself, is this it? Perhaps you're considering changing your career or starting your own business, or retiring or pursuing volunteer work, but you are scared and not sure where to start. Other transitions you may be going through include health changes, relationship changes, maybe a divorce or empty nest, or a change in your social circle. All these things can add up to confusion and fear. It did for me many years ago, but by following a proven process I developed, I was able to rediscover who I was and what I really wanted. And I have led many women through the same process with resulting real transformation. This podcast is a passion for me because I believe when we hear each other's stories of overcoming obstacles, gaining courage, and following our passions, we can be motivated to do the same. I recently had the distinct honor of, in addition to my certification as a career and life transitions coach through an organization called IPEC, I was able to participate and get certified in a revolutionary emotional reframing tool called HAIL. This was led by Linda Rossetti, who is a Harvard MBA and a researcher in transitions. I was really honored to be amongst the inaugural team to be certified in this method called HAIL. This tool will help you reframe your emotions and look at the transitions you're facing in a very different way. Remember, transitions in life are normal, and according to Linda, they require us to re-examine our assumptions about our identity, our capacity, and our values. It requires a choice, an informed choice. Are you ready to make that choice? If you'd like more information on this or my coaching program called It's My Time Now, reach out to me at kavita@powerpurposeplay.ca, and I'm happy to have a complimentary consultation with you. This week's episode reminds us all to uncover the passions that have been through line throughout our life and pay attention to them. How can we bring these same passions to what we are doing now? I was lucky enough to spend a week in New York City recently with my son and some old and dear friends from high school, believe it or not. And it reminded me that our wonderful experiences and relationships of the past can be brought forward into the present if we are open to acknowledging and receiving them. Enjoy this next episode with Carline Bengstton, and I'll see you at the end with her key takeaways. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Midlife Reinvention Podcast. I'm your host, Kavita Ahuja, and my goal with this podcast is to inspire you to realize your true purpose and potential, and to live this next stage of your life to the fullest. If you may be going through transitions in your career or life and are wondering what's next, I'm here to tell you that you can do this. And I want you to believe and say with confidence, it's my time now. To this end, I interview incredible women for this podcast who share their stories of reinvention and who will give you their advice on how to overcome the obstacles in your way to reach your vision for yourself in your next stage of life. This week, I'm very pleased to have on the show Carline Bengstton. Carline retired from corporate life following careers within the insurance, military, avionics, and medical technology industries at Blue Cross and Blue Shield, Honeywell, and most recently, Medtronic, where she was a people and program manager. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree in Business Administration and Art from Concordia University in St. Paul, a mini MBA from the University of St. Thomas, and a marketing certificate from the University of Pennsylvania Wharton Executive Education Program. Carline immigrated to Minnesota from Jamaica as a child and grew up to marry a native Swede, which sealed her affinity for the culture, language, country, and the American Swedish Institute community at large. In addition to all things Swedish, Carline is a published cookbook author and an engaged community leader serving on several boards. She is described by her family and friends as a chef of enticing, inventive, and delicious eats, and recently formed the organization Dine for Dinners to further pursue her two passions of helping others and creating memorable meals. The Dine for Dinners mission is a shared vision with organizations that provide meals for those in need of daily nourishment through dependable, reliable, and sustainable sources. Such a pleasure to have you on the show, Carline. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Kavita.
Yes, it's a real pleasure. And as I was reading your bio, you just certainly seem to have a very mosaic life in that you originally from Jamaica, and then you moved to St. Paul, Minnesota, and where you did your schooling, and then married a Swedish man and traveled the world, but also immersing yourself in the Swedish language and culture and traditional music. And so you did have a lengthy corporate career, Carline, but transitioned into this organization, Dine for Dinner. So really, we talk about reinvention here a lot. So my question is really how and why you decided to go from the corporate world that you were in for so long and to what you're doing now, and kind of what triggered that whole kind of reinvention.
Well, after almost 30 years with the latter company, Medtronic, I was thinking about what the next chapters of my life was going to bring. And being part of the Medtronic community, one of the tenets of the mission is to be a good citizen. And that involved being parts of the communities in different ways through volunteering of my time, talent, and treasure with the various organizations that you somewhat touched upon. But this journey was present for me from the get-go, which I didn't really realize. And so weeks leading up to my departure, I had a handful of recognized points. And so I searched our internal recognize system to determine what those points could be used for. And a couple food organizations popped up, along with other areas that I could use these points for. But the food organizations really touched me because, again, you spoke about my cooking and my talents in that area. And the light bulb went off. I read the description of what those 19 points could be used for, and the particular food organization that I was familiar with because I'd volunteered there many times packing food, it said that the 19 points would feed a child for 19 weeks. And this food organization is Feed My Starving Children. I thought to myself, this is what I need to do once I leave Medtronic, to use my cooking in this way to give back to those in need of daily nourishment. And so I took the time in September of 2020 through the early part of 21 to come up with a business plan and socialize the name, which became very transparent early on, Dine for Dinners. It's
Mm.
all about having an in-home restaurant style dining experience to pay it forward for those in need. So hence the name Dine for Dinners, having collaboration with food organizations to pay it forward.
Mm.
So clients will have in-home restaurant style dining experience, and a portion of the cost of that event goes to a food organization of the client's choice. So a quarter of the cost of that dining experience is then paid forward to a food organization of their choice.
I love that. That's so beautiful. I love the way how you said a light bulb went off.
Mm-hmm.
And often as we go through life, sometimes with these light bulbs or these thoughts come in our way, or we have these ideas and we don't do anything about them, or we kind of ignore them. But it seemed to me, well, obviously you you turned the light bulb on, right? You
Yes,
listen to
yes.
it, which is amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. We tend to ignore those light bulbs or moments in time where we stop and pause, but then don't do anything. And sometimes it's a non feeling at you until you actually act upon that, or someone within your circle see that and motivate you to actually move forward.
Yes, absolutely. And it's being open to recognizing those moments as well, right? So that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how you described the dine for dinners and the purpose, and how I read it what I read on the website, and the purpose is on the website is that there is a joy in giving back and in making a difference in others' lives. Gathering around the dinner table to share in a meal and conversation translates to a bigger purpose, paying it forward to nourish the souls of many, which is so
Right.
beautiful. Tell me, Carline, where did this desire to really give back? I mean, I know where did it come from? Did it come from something in your past, or was it something that you've always had the desire to give back? And
I think it's been ingrained in me from a child, right? Just
yeah,
being there for others and helping, giving a helping hand. And as I mentioned, also, where you choose to work also represents your innermost desires and beings and how you see the world, right? And
hmm,
Medtronic was one of those places that I grew up at and involved in helping others, giving people lifelong health through medical technology,
hmm,
improving their lives. And as I mentioned earlier, the mission also speaks to being a good citizen.
hmm,
And so by me providing of my time, talent, and treasure, I could see the results of that based on the various organizations that I was involved in at different levels. And so that continued throughout my life's journey. And always loved the love of cooking.
yeah,
And my family and friends would always say, you should really open a restaurant and write a cookbook. And these were the furthest thoughts in
yeah,
my mind. I had a
yeah,
career, as you mentioned. But when I knew that career was ending, it
yes,
again was, how am I going to continue this journey of giving back? And
hmm,
the
yeah.
opportunity really presented itself to me. And so, as you said, I acted on it and moved forward, knowing that the second half of my life is all about giving back, leaving that legacy of contributing to the greater cause of humanity.
That's beautiful. It's really nice. It's beautiful because I think it's interesting how you mentioned like working at Medtronic and the companies you work where there's always kind of been a through line, right, of helping others. And so not only were you fortunate to have that in your previous career, but now you've taken that forward into what you're doing now. And often what we talk about here in this podcast and many women that I've spoken to, it's about their buried passions, right? So it's like sometimes we have these passions that we have had and maybe as a child that we've kind of maybe even forgotten about and maybe haven't pursued because of differing circumstances or just life in general, right? But you seem to
Having
have,
so many different experiences that you forget about those innate
yeah,
abilities
yes,
that you have that
exactly.
come effortlessly,
Yes,
and
yes.
you may find them again later in life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you seem to have done that with your cooking and in turning it into a wonderful business. And so I would wonder if you maybe for the women listening on the podcast, What would you advise them, women who are thinking, I have this passion that I know that I'm really good at, or I would love to do, but I'm really afraid, or there's these obstacles in my way. What would you kind of advise them?
Funny you said that because that was my first thought, really take a step back and really ask yourself, what is it I'm good at? What comes effortlessly and gives you joy?
Mhm.
Also, sometimes others really know us better than we tend to know ourselves. So don't be afraid to reach out to those friends, family, close confidants to see, what they see your strengths are and what they see you do that inspires you and maybe even inspires them as well. And they reach to you for that inspiration because sometimes we give in ways that just comes natural to us and we don't see it as anything greater than ourselves. But
Yes.
you'll be surprised the feedback you'll get
Mm,
and think about acting on those,
mm,
especially later in life when you have the opportunity now to give back in a different way.
mm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that
So
because actually, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. So you said ask yourself what comes effortlessly. And that's interesting because
Mhm.
in my coaching, that's what I do. Some women will be like, I don't really know where to start. I know I want to do something different, but I don't really know where to start. And
Mhm.
so where you start is by asking yourself, what are you really good at? What are your strengths? And then it's interesting you mentioned that about asking others, what do they see are my strengths? Or what do they come to me for
Mhm.
inspiration or for guidance? Because often we don't even see what other people think about us. You know what I mean? And then when they tell us that, it's like, whoa, really? You think that's my strength? I didn't even realize that. So it's a good to not only look at your internal what you think, but also get the opinions of others. So that's fantastic. Yeah. And then to just really go for it, right?
Yep. Yeah. And also along those lines, yeah, again, don't be afraid to even share your thoughts and ideas through those several contacts because you'll be amazed that they may be able to willing to elevate your cause and even put you in contact with others who may have that wherewithal or knowledge to help you get to that place you're seeking to, come to in order to move forward in the
Yeah,
second life.
that's a great advice. That's really great advice. So I know that for myself, I know I faced a lot of obstacles when I went from my corporate life to entrepreneurship and starting my own business. And I know that you also, as leaving a corporate life that's kind of comfortable, right? That everything's kind of done
Hmm.
for you and that you have kind of a steady income or whatever. But as also other things that happened. I know that your husband had passed away. So maybe you could just describe some of these obstacles and how did you kind of develop that courage to move forward and do what you're doing now?
Yes. Well, definitely, I realize that obstacles come from all forms, whether large or small, right? And
Yeah.
everyone's obstacle is unique. So I'll just speak specifically to mine. Basically, the ones that I needed to look out for were more self-inflicted, I would say, because,
Okay.
we can put walls up and obstacles for ourselves that are either imagined or real. And we literally need to figure out how to get out of that quicksand and feel capable of moving forward. And so that for me was probably my biggest obstacle. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
So again, I think that's why it's important to be transparent with others about your journey and to maintain a positive attitude. I mean, there
mm,
were days where I was probably, for lack of a better word, feeling in the dumps, but no one would know it because I really try to keep that tough upper lip and stay positive because I am typically a positive person, but we all have our days,
of
right?
course. Yeah. Yeah.
Where we don't feel like we want to put a positive light or spin on things,
Yeah.
but I try to tend not to show that to others. And that's probably part of the reason why I think people look up to me in some ways because I try to stay even keel.
Mm,
But then when I'm alone, everything just kind of comes to a head, so
yeah.
to speak. But then it's just picking yourself up and
Yeah.
continuing to move forward.
Yeah.
So I chose the latter to be positive.
Yeah. That's great.
And Two of the major obstacles I faced was regarding really when it comes to dine for dinners was determining if I was gonna go the nonprofit route or what I call profit for nonprofit with the idea of giving back. And
Mm.
I chose the latter because the nonprofit route really has many restrictions and challenges around it. And I like to be more creative, and that wouldn't have given me the wherewithal to really express my creative side when it came to dine for dinners. So
Hmm.
that was the direction I went. The other area that I really was apprehensive about was how I was going to market myself. And one of the major things really is having a website, right?
Yeah.
And I came to know someone who is on the business development side in IT. And this individual stepped up and said, I want to help you. And we sat down and brainstormed. I knew how I wanted the website to look. I mean, I had my idea, but I just didn't know how to bring it to life. And this person helped me bring it to life with that
Nice.
storyboard and to visualize it and envision it. And we made it happen together.
Mm. Nice. You had people come up and support you, which was wonderful.
Yes, and I think
Yeah.
that really plays into, again, sharing your story, sharing your
Yeah.
ideas, not being afraid, because if you keep it in, you may not move forward. And
Yeah.
literally, when you share your thoughts and ideas, that's when you're compelled to do something about it. Because now that you've told somebody, you have
Yeah. You better
no
do
other
it.
choice but to act
Yeah.
upon it, right? Yeah.
Yes. Great
Hmm.
ideas. Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said about when you're going back to when you were thinking about starting that you felt like your self-inflicted walls and then the quicksand. Those
Hmm.
are great metaphors because sometimes we feel like that, like the walls are caving in or they're in quicksand, but having the positive attitude and also I think being vulnerable, right, is important, right? And sharing your vision with others. And then yeah, that whole marketing piece is interesting too, right? Because we think about, oh my God, I have to actually put myself out there. And it's like, how do I want to present myself? And then you worry about the judgment of others and all those thoughts come in. But I think if you have a goal in mind in terms of like with yours, it was giving back and using your passions to build this business, then we have to kind of put those obstacles aside and think about the greater vision, right?
Hmm.
So
Correct.
yeah, wonderful, wonderful. That's great. So, Carline, I was reading a little bit about the type of food that you make, and it's a bit of a fusion of different cultures, Jamaica and Scandinavia and Asia, and that made me think that well, I'm Indian myself, right? And despite our cultural differences, I think there's always that bond of food that brings people together, and that always brings out the love and the joy in people. And so maybe you could share a little bit of your thoughts about that and maybe some examples of some of the people that you've served and then some of the differences that you've made in their lives.
Yes, definitely. Through the time so far that I've been involved with Dine for Dinners, I have gotten to meet so many different people and from various cultural backgrounds, and they're always surprised at how I can use different ingredients to just bring forward a different taste that they would have never even envisioned or thought about. So using different ingredients to create what I call magical taste ingredients,
Making me
which they've,
hungry.
oh, it's
I
funny
haven't
you
had
say that
lunch.
because when they, yeah, when I am actually, we're waiting to eat lunch as well.
Yeah.
But I hear that all the time when people look at my food pictures, they say, I get hungry just looking at your pictures of the
Yeah.
food. But they've described it as an explosion of taste or even a
Yeah.
party in their mouth or having happy taste buds.
Nice.
So, part of serving my clients today really involves knowing the guests' food limitations or food dislikes. And so I will craft a menu around that understanding. And I
Mm.
sometimes try to keep a thread throughout the menu. It's typically a 5 or 6 course meal. So, for example, with the starters, or I call the palate teasers, and then the starters and the main course, and then the dessert. Typically, the first three may have somewhat of a theme, whether it's an ingredient that I use throughout, for example, like pineapple, or if it's an Italian fare or Asian twist to it, or even seafood or Scandinavian twist. I may make a typical American dish, But for example, like if I make pork tenderloin, I may end with adding a little bit of lingonberries, which is a Scandinavian jam. And people are pleasantly surprised how well that goes
Yeah.
together. So
Yeah.
I try different variations, and yeah, then the feedback tends to be very positive at the end of the evening. But again, as you mentioned earlier, it's really all about bringing individuals together because we all love to eat, right? We have to eat to sustain our
Yeah.
bodies.
Yeah. You're in a
And
good spot for that.
right. And why not enjoy this meal as you sitting around the table, you're enjoying a meal and thinking about others who may not be having the same experience, right? Who go through
Hmm.
the day wondering where their next meal is going to come from.
Hmm.
So again, you enjoy a meal and you're paying it forward for someone else to be able to enjoy a meal.
That's
Mhm.
beautiful. That's great. Yeah. I just, when I was reading that, I'm like, yeah, there is a common thread there, and that we just went through the different, whether it's Easter or Passover or whatever, Ramadan, we celebrate, and we usually celebrate it around food and the abundance around us, but a lot of people don't have that abundance. So how many meals have you like served to date? And, tell us about the funds that you've raised and some of the communities that you've served.
Absolutely. Well, I'll start first with the communities I've served. That's been near and far. I've traveled to Florida, to California, and the greater Twin Cities at large, traveling probably 2 hours one way, so round trip 4 hours to provide this in-home restaurant style dining experience. So in 3 years, so actually June 13th, I'll be starting my fourth year with Dine for Dinners.
Wow.
So up to this
Congratulations.
point, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I think I said earlier 2020, but it was actually 2019, September of 2019, I started the process.
Yeah.
And when Dine for Dinners launched, it was the height of the pandemic. So I
Wow.
had a soft launch, I'll call it, sent out an email to family, friends, colleagues, announcing the launch of Dine for Dinners. And
Hmm.
within a couple of days of sending an email out, I had one person respond right away asking for me to do a dinner the following weekend. And like you said earlier, I'm like, oh, I guess this is
I
really
guess
happening.
I guess I better move
Yeah,
forward then.
it's
Yeah.
starting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great.
But to answer your question specifically, I actually had to go back and do the math because I don't even really think about that. I do keep track of all of my dinners or the experiences that happen and the number of meals donated. And so 630 individuals so far have experienced a dine for dinners or
Wow.
over 80 experiences. So average of 7 to 8 individuals sitting around the table together.
Beautiful. Hi, my friend. Kavita here. Do you often feel blocked from moving forward? We all feel that way at times. These are referred to as energy blocks. I've created a short, actionable PDF guide to help you release your negative energy blocks. Click the link in the description to download it now for free. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah,
Mm.
and greater than 186,000 meals have been donated to date so far and counting. When it comes to, and maybe I'll say this before I give you the numbers in terms of what's been raised to support organizations and charities at large, is that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even see that in scope in terms of what I was doing. I was so
Yeah.
focused on the in-home dining experience and paying it forward for those in need. And the pandemic opened up other areas really regarding this, doing experiences virtually, having a
Mm.
cooking class virtually and sharing a
Oh,
meal virtually. It also opened up the idea to organizations reaching out and asking me to donate an experience to support their annual cause of raising money to support that organization. And as a result of that, over $70,000 has been raised to date in supporting community and charities as through a donated Dine for Dinners experience. So that was something I didn't even
wow.
see as an opportunity to bring Dine for Dinners forward through other means or venues. And it's been wonderful. Yeah.
Wow. completely amazing. And congratulations for that. I mean,
And
70,000 raised, 186,000 meals donated.
mhm.
Beautiful, beautiful. And it's funny that you say you didn't even realize the impact you have made. And now here you are, and you're opening up all different other opportunities and avenues like the online version and all these other things with the communities and with organizations. And that makes me think that we don't really know what we're capable of doing until we actually do it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
And
And I've also had the opportunity to have speaking engagements along with even meeting you, Katrina.
yes.
And this was not something I saw coming. So
Yeah.
it's afforded me the opportunity to share my life's journey. And if I can even help one person to make their ideas become a reality, I am happy to do that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, when you have great heart and you have a vision that of giving back, then I think people generally will be attracted to you and come to you. So that's just the way I believe. And I think it's a positive energy that we give out. We get the
Mm-hmm.
positive energy back, right? And I think you're a great example of a person, a woman who has, when you're contemplating what's next and actually going for it. So I think that is one of the themes here is when you're contemplating what's next in your life, in your next stage in life, whether whatever age you are, whatever you're going through, I guess what would you say to women who are contemplating what's next based on your experience?
Again, think back on your life's journey. Recollect all those experiences you've had and reach out again to your circle of family, friends, confidants, colleagues, because they, again, may know you better than you tend to know yourself, right? Because
Yeah.
you're so focused on the day to day and don't think about those things that come effortlessly to you and how you can use that to help others through
Hmm.
their life's journey, but also bring joy and success to you. And it's amazing the things that come effortlessly to you and giving back, it also comes around to provide even more benefits to you as an individual.
Yeah.
Opens the door for other opportunities that you weren't even aware of or even thought
Yeah.
was even a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily just financial either. I mean, and I think it's a
No.
lot of it is this the fulfillment that we get when we fulfill our passions and we do something that aligns with our values and our passions and our
Mm-hmm.
strengths, right? So when that sweet spot is reached, then we just get
Mm-hmm.
so much
Yeah.
fulfillment. So,
And internally if it doesn't align with your values, right? And that's when you
hmm,
need to
hmm,
make the decision and do what's best for you, mental,
absolutely.
physically, but also that it's an area that will be beneficial for others.
Yes.
Mm.
100%, 100%. Wonderful. So, Carline, what's next for you? And tell us what you're doing, what your plans are for the year or the next couple of years, and then where we can find you and how do we get in touch with you if anybody's interested.
Wonderful. Well, actually, you can find me on social media. I have the website, dineforddinners.org, all one word, dine the number four, dinners.org. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also on Instagram. My handle is Mosaic Delish. You referred to my mosaic lifestyle, and so hence Mosaic Delish. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me there by my name. And Facebook. I have a Facebook page regarding the Dine for Dinners as well. What's next for me? Oh my goodness. Well, there's a lot on my plate right now, but a
Nice.
couple of things I'm really excited about. I am co-chair for one of those wonderful organizations I've been involved with, co-chair on their annual gala committee for the Ordway, where we bring it's in res it's a the Ordway has four different groups in residency there. So the
Mm-hmm.
St. Paul Scuba Club, the Minnesota Opera, the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, and obviously the Ordway as well, where they bring in live performances.
Nice.
And so I'm co-chair for the gala this year, and
Wow,
I'm
exciting.
that. Peter Pan is going to be coming to the Ordway, and so that's the theme of our gala, our garden gala. Also, I am going to be heading to Sweden in about 3 weeks. Yes. with another organization I'm fully involved with when I speak of Sweden, referring to the American Swedish Institute and being on the board there. And we are going to have the opportunity to visit the King and Queen of Sweden. So we'll be,
Wow. Are
yeah,
you going to
so
cook for
that's
them?
really exciting.
Are you...
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Yes,
Oh, that's
they're
amazing.
yes, we're coming with goodwill and bringing a gift to the king who's celebrating his 50th year on the throne. He is and the queen have supported the Swedish Institute in so many different ways, and we're having some transition leadership right now, and so we're going over just to make sure we keep that connection vibrant as we transition to new leadership at the Institute.
That sounds amazing. It's
And I'll take
really...
the time to see family and friends, of course, while I'm there.
Yes. Yeah. I love that how you've kind of taken your background and your husband's background and giving back into these different organizations. So fantastic. And you also have a cookbook, right?
I do. It's called
Yeah.
Carline's Fork and Cork, Simply Delish.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll have all the all your links in the show notes so people can check it out if they're interested in learning more and reaching out to you maybe if you're in your area. And yeah, I just wish you all
Or
the
even
best.
if they're not in the area.
Oh, not even there. Okay, yeah. Okay. That's true because it's online too, right? Yeah.
Yes.
100%. That's true.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure to understand your background and how you kind of went from your corporate world to what you're doing now and how you created how you tapped into your passions, I would say, for the greater good. So it's been wonderful to learn a little bit more about you, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much, Kavita, for having me. Nice to meet you as well. And
Yeah.
I would love to come up to Canada and cook for you sometime.
Oh, well, I'll take you up on that for sure. I love everything. I love Jamaican food and I mean, we're foodies. So yes, I'll take you up
Yes.
on that. Next time you're in Canada, let's have a date.
Yes. Sounds wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Carline, for being on the show and good luck with everything.
Thank you. Take care.
I trust you enjoyed this episode with Carline Bengstton and her beautiful story of paying it forward as much as I did. Here are her key takeaways. Number 1, we tend to ignore those light bulb moments or moments in time when there is a gnawing feeling within you. It's important to recognize and acknowledge those moments. Number 2, where you choose to work also represents your innermost desires and how you see the world. Number 3, provide your time, talent, and treasure to that which you love. The second half of your life can be all about giving back, leaving the legacy of contributing to the greater cause. Number 4, the passions we had as a child can become buried, but it's important to recognize and bring them forward now. Number 5, take a step back and really ask yourself, what is it that I'm good at? What comes effortlessly and gives me joy? Don't be afraid to reach out to your friends, confidants, and to see what they think your strengths are and what you do that inspires them. Number 6, don't be afraid to share your thoughts and ideas because those around you may be willing to elevate your cause. 7, we can put walls up and obstacles for ourselves which are self-inflicted. They are either imagined or real. We literally need to figure out how to get out of that quicksand and feel capable of moving forward. Number 8, share your ideas and don't be afraid because if you keep it in, you may not move forward. And number 9, when you're enjoying a meal, why not think about others who may not have that option like you do, wondering where their next meal is going to be coming from. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, the transition in life that you may be going through right now is normal. If you feel confused, overwhelmed, unsure of what to do next, you may need a guide to lead you to rediscover yourself. I would be honored to be that guide on your journey of reinvention. It is my passion and my life's work. Till next time, my friend, stay well and stay safe.